Hello everyone, welcome to Bhadra IAS Academy. In the last two videos, we looked at the analysis of the budget, that is the Union Budget 2025-26. Today in this video, we are going to start the new series, that is what we call analysis of the economic survey. तो ये जो वीडियो है ये अलग अलग पार्ट में आएगा, मतलब हर चैप्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमिक सर्वे के लिए हम एक छोटा छोटा सेपरेट वीडियो रखेंगे, मतलब समझने में देखने में आपको इजी होगा. So today we are going to start our analysis of the Indian Economic Survey, that is 2024-25. So if you look at the economic survey, today we are going to cover the first chapter, that is the chapter 1. The title of this chapter is the state of the economy. मतलब दुनिया का इकोनॉमी और इंडिया का इकोनॉमी ये दोनों कैसा है उसका कंपैरिजन किया है चैप्टर 1 में. Okay. So that is the first video that we are going to cover today, that is chapter 1. Now starting with, I thought I will give you some basic facts about economic survey. Mostly this is from the exam point of view, for prelims point of view, right? Some basic information about the economic survey itself that we should know. Like for example, if you look at the first important fact that we should know, the economic survey was first presented in 1950-51 budget. Okay, so this was the first time they introduced the economic survey presentation in 1950-51. Later on what happened in 1964, an important year, the economic survey was separated from the budget and it was presented as an independent separate document. So that tradition custom is still going on. So सवाल ये है economic survey को budget से separate क्यों किया? Basically to provide what we can say a review, a detailed review of the what we can say economic development in the previous year. मतलब क्या है? You have the budget of 2025-26, but economic survey gives you what happened till last year. That means last year में economy कैसा था? What is the status of our economy? Inflation, employment, you know, the foreign trade, all these analysis are given of the previous year. So it is like a review of what happened and based on that you present a budget of the upcoming year. समझ में आ गया? So the economic survey is normally presented for the previous year. Now if you look at the economic survey, the economic survey of this 2025 was presented by the Union Finance Minister on 1st February 2025. Now the economic survey is generally prepared by what we say the Department of Economic Affairs. It is the same department which also prepares the government budget. Now one important note I want to give you in this point, generally इंडिया में क्या होता है, ये जो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे हर बजट में प्रेजेंट होता है, मतलब टुमारो इज द बजट, टुडे वी विल हैव द इकोनॉमिक सर्वे. लेकिन इसमें एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज हमें याद रखना है, जब गवर्नमेंट इंटीरियम बजट, राइट, व्हेन गवर्नमेंट प्रेजेंट्स इंटीरियम बजट, ड्यूरिंग द इंटीरियम बजट का प्रेजेंटेशन के समय में देयर इज नो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे. लाइक द लास्ट ईयर फरवरी में जब गवर्नमेंट ने बजट प्रेजेंट किया, देयर वाज नो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे. व्हाई? Because interim budget is one which is presented for a temporary short period before the election. Normally in an election year we have interim budget. तो interim budget के पहले economic survey present नहीं किया जाता है, right? So that is one extra note just to keep it in mind. Okay. Now coming to economic survey. So before we go to the details of the chapter 1 of the economic survey, let me tell you in short what is this chapter 1 is all about. इकोनॉमिक सर्वे का इस साल का पहला जो चैप्टर है, इट इज बेसिकली अ कंपैरिजन ऑफ द ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी एंड इंडियन इकोनॉमी. तो फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री क्या बोलते हैं, ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी में लास्ट ईयर लॉट ऑफ अनसर्टेनिटी थे, देयर वाज अ जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशन, राइट, देयर वाज अ इन्फ्लेशन, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ग्लोबली वाज डाउन. इस अनसर्टेनिटी का सिचुएशन में, कंफ्यूजन में इंडियन इकोनॉमी का परफॉर्मेंस थोड़ा अच्छा हुआ है. दिस इज व्हाट वी कैन से द जिस्ट और समरी of the first chapter if you really want to understand the economic survey in very short. I repeat, economic survey basically tries to say last year the global economy faced a lot of uncertainty, starting with that Ukraine war, etc., which is given in the survey, then the Hamas-Israel conflict, etc. So there were many other factors, okay, causing geopolitical tensions, because of which global economy did not fare well. There were a lot of uncertainty, and also there was a little pressure of inflation which eased out. इस uncertainty में Indian economy performed rather good. Now this is the conclusion of the chapter 1. So now let's look at this chapter. As I told you, the economic survey starts with the analysis, or what we can say, a review of what happened in the global economy. That is how they start this. So now what does the economic survey say? If you look at it, in 2024, according to the economic survey, the global economy had uneven growth. That means what? Some parts of the world experienced growth and some parts did not have experience of a proper growth. Like for example, Japan did not have a good growth, okay, whereas in Europe also some parts had a problem. In America, like, the growth was not that good, whereas Canada growth was good. So there are some parts which had a good growth, some parts did not have a good growth. That means there was a uneven growth, okay, in different regions in 24. Now what is the striking feature जो मैंने आपको already बोला था, last year का global का uncertainty main में क्या point है? There was a slowdown in production where we can say manufacturing sector. According to the economic survey, the manufacturing sector globally was affected, which is also another reason for what we can say Indian manufacturing sector also getting affected. The economic survey उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Very weak global demand and also supply chain का issues, right? That is also given here. What we can say, supply chain disruption and weak external demand. Now because of these two important factors, that is the supply chain का disruption and very weak demand, external global demand में, इसके वजह से क्या हुआ? Mostly in some parts of Europe and also some parts of Asia, there was a slowdown in what we can say industrial manufacturing sector. That means globally, we are not talking about India, right? Second point, if you see, on the opposite side, if you see, service sector actually performed well in the global economy, which supported many countries and also India. India में last year, according to economic survey, agricultural sector and service sector, they performed better. Okay, so this is the starting note, what we can say to start the economic survey analysis. Very simple. Global economy had some problem. What was the problem? There was a slowdown in the manufacturing sector, but service sector fared well, right? This is the key point to understand. Now let's go further. As a result, what happened in global economy? Inflation was felt little bit reducing in the manufacturing sector because lack of demand, etc., whatever. But services sector had experienced some kind of a inflation. So if you see, inflationary pressure eased, matlab became less in many economy, but services inflation in a way it remained more or less persistent. However, government का economic survey में क्या कहना है? Even though inflation seemed to have gone down a little bit, but there is still what we can say global uncertainty is there. There is a global uncertainty over future policy rates of the central banks across the world. Why? Because there is a risk of price. Still, there is a possibility price may still rise once again because of geopolitical uncertainties and also a lot of elections taking place across the world. Now the economic survey basically highlights, if you read the economic survey, you will find the mention of this. Some developments which are not favorable to economic growth are like the Russia-Ukraine conflict, that is one which has affected global supply chain, एंड द सेकंड वन जो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ने हाईलाइट किया है, दिस इज द इजराइल हमास का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. सो द इजराइल हमास का टेरर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट and the Russia occupying Ukraine ka parts, this created actually supply chain ka issues in global economy. So now what is the impact of this all kind of uncertainty and geopolitical tension? The impact is on energy as well as food security. Energy means what we can say power, oil, etc. And food security is the availability of food production, agriculture, etc. Like India imports the edible oil, soya bean and other things, we also import the oil. Now those also affected our economy, right? Crude oil price also. So the energy therefore is another aspect. Now what is the effect of all this uncertainty on global economy also is the rising inflation of certain items in the global economy, which later on moderated and reduced, right? So this is the economic survey trying to highlight these issues which happened in the global economy. Now other tensions, what do we call the geopolitical tension of this Israel-Hamas war, is the important issue highlighted here. Is the other one, what do we call tension in the Middle East, which has affected what we call the shipping route. Okay, this we will discuss a little bit. It affected the critical shipping routes, specifically talking about the Suez Canal, right? So if you see here, the Suez Canal, which is in Egypt, it connects one side the Mediterranean Sea and the other side it joins with the Red Sea, right? So now ये जो Suez Canal का जो pathway है उसमें थोड़ा सा टेंशन हो गया था, अनसर्टेनिटी हो गया था, तो मेनी कंपनीज ने क्या किया, सुएज कैनाल रूट को अवॉइड किया and they were going round about, where they went round the Cape of Good Hope, right? Now what happened, since the shipping companies सोचे हम सुएज कैनाल के द्वारा नहीं जाएंगे, we will go round and round, so it increased the delivery times by what we can say 10 days or even more. And so if you see, it increases the supply chain ka confusion, and so manufacturing sector also gets affected and prices also rise because cost of export import becomes very costly in this case. So now if you look at this one, the Suez Canal route is the short one which lies in Egypt. It connects the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. Now many companies ne kya kiya, they try to avoid this zone because of conflict, so they were going round about here Africa through the Cape of Good Hope, right? So if you look at this also, you will get to know this is the Cape of Good Hope, so from where some countries are trying to transport through roundabout. As a result क्या होता है, as the economic survey ने clearly बोला है, it increases your travel time by another 10-11 days also on an average. So this is what we can say one effect which affected the global supply chain in the last year, which is given in the economic survey. Other than that, the risk is also estimated by some other global index, what we call geopolitical economic policy uncertainty index, which shows that the geopolitical tension in the world between countries was rather high, which also affected the global economy, as well as the world trade ka uncertainty index, right? So now these all try to show basically there was a lot of uncertainty in the world about the economic growth and prospects, right? Now if you look at here, as a result what happened, the global growth, right? If you look at here, the global growth, the economic growth in March, June, September, they have given for different period 3.2, 3.1, 3.2. Now if you look at the world, the growth in 2023 was 3.3%, 2024 was 3.2, 2025 is 3.3, right? Whereas advanced economies had a little lower, whereas emerging and middle, okay, incomes, their growth is little different. So now it shows that how different regions had a different type of economic growth, right? Now look at this average of 333, whereas India का growth is more than 6. That is why the economic survey क्या बोलता है, though global economy was going down, Indian economy was rather doing good, right? That is the point that we need to carry for our preparation. There's another index which also shows how the global trade या manufacturing is taking place. It's a very important index. Exam के लिए I would say that this index you should keep it in mind. This is called purchasing manager ka index. It is often used to measure the economic, current and future trend, whether how it will take place in both manufacturing sector as well as the service sector. Matlab we have a separately manufacturing PMI index and service ka PMI index. Now this index is based on the survey conducted by the managers of the private companies who are looking after the operation of purchasing and things like that. So this PMI index, exam point of view, I am telling you, be aware of it. Exam में prelims में ये आ सकता है, right? So this index is another index along with the other index to show how there was uncertainty, growth, etc. in the world. Now the global composite purchasing manager का index ने क्या दिखाया? It showed some kind of a expansion, that means growth for 14th consecutive time, right? It's very good. Now what it shows, the service sector का जो PMI index है, it was showing upward trend. That means it was growing. There's a positivity. Whereas the manufacturing का PMI index है, it showed negative trend. मतलब it is going down. So as I told you, the global economy in the last year, manufacturing sector was going down, servicing sector was rather going up. तो एग्जाम में ऐसा सब ऑप्शन आपको प्रीलिम्स में स्टेटमेंट बेस्ड क्वेश्चन में दे सकते हैं. दिस इज द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक सर्वे का बेसिक पॉइंट्स. क्लियर? नाउ so if you look at the global economic growth, already I mentioned to you, in 2023 global economy grew by 3.3%, in 2024 3.2%, and in 2024-5 3.3%. That means you see the global economic growth is not much, it's in the average of 3. Indian economy definitely good, we have grown more than 6, right? So over the next 5 years, global growth is expected to be also in the average of 3.2%. Okay. Now these things are rather important to understand when you compare India with the global economy. So global economy is growing only on average of 3 plus. In the next 5 years also, the projected growth is 3.2% only, right? According to economic survey. Now in this context, you look at India. Where are we? How is our growth, right? So if you look at India, how do we understand the economic survey? It is very easy to understand. अभी जो मैंने बताया आपको, ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी डाउन हो रहा है, मतलब डाउन मतलब थोड़ा इतना अच्छा सा ग्रोथ नहीं हुआ है, 3.3 के एवरेज में हुआ है. इंडियन इकोनॉमी देखिए, दिस इज आवर GVA एंड इट इज आवर GDP. ये जो लाइन है, इफ यू लुक एट दिस लाइन, इट इज ऑलरेडी 6%. So Indian economy, as they said, the GDP, this is the average growth of last 10 years. This is the 2024 ka growth. It is roughly, they are saying, about 6.4%. That means what? Indian economy was growing above 6%, whereas the global economy was growing around 3%. Understand? So this is the basic thing, that we need not too much be negative about our Indian economy. Our growth has been rather good according to economic survey, right? This is the simple understanding of that. Even our GVA, gross value added, also is more than 6. That's a good sign, right? So now if you look at our Indian economy, how did our economy, we said that it grew by more than 6%. How? So if you look at here, Indian economic growth was supported by what? As जैसे हमने स्टार्टिंग में बोला था, ग्लोबल में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर का थोड़ा स्लो डाउन हुआ, वैसा भी इंडिया का भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में थोड़ा स्लो डाउन हुआ था. So our economy was basically supported by what? Our economy was supported by one side we have agricultural sector and on the other side we have a services sector, right? So the agricultural sector and the service sector actually pushed our Indian economy, right? So if you see how the agricultural sector improved, one side we have a rural demand, मतलब rural area का जो उन लोग का जो demand है, it improved. Why? Because of good kharif season का production and the favorable agricultural condition. But the manufacturing sector of India also faced problem, as we already said, because of weak global demand. Because global demand was not much for whatever reason, so manufacturing sector could not compete much, right? And also supply chain ka problem, increase in cost, you know, those issues were there. Okay, so remember 2024-25 financial year, usme Indian economy grew. It is because of performance of agriculture and also performance of service sector, basically because manufacturing sector in a way reduced a little bit. Okay, so now what are the other factors which contributed to our economic growth? Some key elements are here to remember. First one is private consumption. That means what? Money spent by the private sector, that is all of us citizens and consumers, we are spending money from our pocket to buy things. That is called private consumption. It was rather stable, right? That shows domestic demand was good. Though global demand was going down, but India के अंदर जो domestic demand है वो अच्छा था. That's why we also say हमारा जो economy है, Indian economy, इसको हम बोलते हैं basically domestic demand economy. मतलब हमारा economy का growth survival के लिए हमारा देश के अंदर जो demand होता है उसी से production का incentive मिलता है, right? So that is the point. On the other side, government ने क्या बोला? Government का fiscal discipline, right? Government controlled the deficit, etc. And also our BOP, that is the external balance, what we call balance of payment, it was also which good. Why? Because we had a service ka surplus. Normally, as I taught you in our regular class also, BOP में our goods trade goes into deficit, BOP में service trade has a surplus. That means what? We export more services और सर्विसेज का हमारा जो इंपोर्ट है वो कम है, राइट? तो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे भी वही बोल रहा है, हमारा सर्विसेज में जो ट्रेड है उसका हमारा सरप्लस है. एंड ऑल्सो हेल्थी रेमिटेंस. रेमिटेंस का मतलब क्या है? जो एनआरआई इंडिया के बाहर है वो लोग का जो इनकम मिलता है वो इंडिया में वापस भेजते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल एनआरआई. नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ दिस थिंग्स व्हाट हैपेंड, आवर बीओपी वाज आल्सो इन गुड पोजीशन, right? Now together these factors provided what we can say the foundation for our economic growth. That is what economic survey is trying to highlight. Understand? So if you see, understanding economic survey itna complicated nahi hai. Basically as I told you in the beginning, global economy thoda weak tha, economic ka growth global mein acha nahi tha because of supply chain problem, geopolitical tension, etc. फिर भी इस अनसर्टनिटी में, इस प्रॉब्लम में इंडियन इकोनॉमी का परफॉर्मेंस अच्छा हुआ. कैसा हुआ? बिकॉज ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द सर्विस सेक्टर. उसी में अलग अलग कारण गवर्नमेंट ने दिया है. प्राइवेट कंजम्पशन, फिस्कल डिसिप्लिन एंड स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्सटर्नल बैलेंस, बीओपी का बैलेंस. यू सी, वंस यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस बेसिक, इसी में से आपको एग्जाम में अगर कुछ सवाल आता है यही ऑप्शन स्टेटमेंट बन के आएगा. ठीक है. नाउ लेट्स गो फर्दर. सो इन दिस ग्लोबल कॉन्टेक्स्ट गवर्नमेंट क्या बोलता है? वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेटमेंट इज दिस वन. इस ग्लोबल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था, इंडिया डिस्प्लेड व्हाट वी कैन से स्टेडी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ बिकॉज एज आई सेड आवर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ वाज 6.4%. दैट इज व्हाट गवर्नमेंट इज एक्सपेक्टिंग our GDP to grow by 6.4% in 2024-25. ओके, इसको भी याद रखेगा ये फिगर को. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू इकोनॉमिक सर्वे Indian economy is expected to grow by 6.4%. Okay. Okay. So this is the basic thing government has said about the economic survey, right? Now, if you look at our economic growth, real GVA, so we are saying 6.4% का जो growth होगा, estimated growth, ये कैसा होगा? किस किस sector का इसमें growth अच्छा होगा, right? So look at the first one. Agricultural sector is expected to grow 3.8% as estimate, whereas industry 6.2% and service sector 7.2%. So this is the government का projection in 2024-25 financial year में इन sector का growth अच्छा रहेगा. Okay. So the real GVA growth in 6.2% was there in the first half. H1 का मतलब क्या है? First half, right? Now इस first half moment इसी में problem क्या था? We had a problem of industry का problem, right? Industry did not contribute much, basically contributed by, so if you see, Indian economic growth was contributed by agriculture and service sector. So we can talk about basically two sectors which helped our Indian economic growth. One is the agricultural sector, other one is the service sector. Okay. So if you see, why the industrial sector इंडिया में ज़्यादा ग्रोथ नहीं दिया? व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम विद द इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर? गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन 3 रीजन. नंबर 1, व्हाई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर कम हो गया? एज आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू, रिमेंबर दिस वर्ड, वीक डिमांड फ्रॉम द ग्लोबल डेस्टिनेशन कंट्रीज. सेकेंड वन, दे सेड monsoon was good, but this monsoon had a different effect on agriculture and industry. मतलब क्या है? ये जो मानसून था ज्यादा पानी मिला, राइट? लाइक गवर्नमेंट ने क्या बोला? ये रिजर्वायर्स, ओके, दिस थिंग्स वर फिल्ड अप. उसी में क्या बेनिफिट मिला? एग्रीकल्चर का ग्रोथ थोड़ा अच्छा हो गया. लेकिन उसी में प्रॉब्लम क्या हुआ? इंडस्ट्री का ग्रोथ नहीं हुआ. क्यों? बिकॉज इट अफेक्टेड इंडस्ट्रियल एक्टिविटीज लाइक माइनिंग, कंस्ट्रक्शन एंड ऑल्सो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. That is the reason given by economic survey. I am not saying my own. I repeat, इकोनॉमिक सर्वे क्या बोलता है? अच्छा मानसून के वजह से एग्रीकल्चर का बेनिफिट हुआ, इंडस्ट्री का थोड़ा डैमेज हो गया. कैसा हुआ? माइनिंग एक्टिविटी, कंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटी एंड मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्टिविटी थोड़ा गिर गया, राइट? द थर्ड रीजन व्हाट दे हैव गिवन आर द फेस्टिवल्स ऑफ इंडिया. ये जो फेस्टिविटीज ऑफ इंडिया सितंबर और अक्टूबर के बीच में आते हैं, लास्ट ईयर और इस साल में उनका वेरिएशन बहुत हो गया, मतलब सेम समय पे नहीं आया. because of which it also affected the industry ka growth, which became modest growth. Now these are the official reasons given by economic survey as to why Indian economy में manufacturing sector का contribution थोड़ा कम हो गया. So if you go to the previous one, as I told you, Indian economy का growth is basically attributed to agriculture and service sector, but industrial sector it moderated in the first half. Okay, so these are what we can say analysis of our economic survey, that is the chapter 1. In the next video we are going to analyze the chapter 2. Okay, economic survey chapter 2. Till then you watch the chapter 1 ka video properly and try to understand. For any queries you contact Bhadra IAS Academy at 8638391721. Okay, keep watching our video. Already we have released the budget video part 1 and part 2. Today we are releasing the economic survey ka part 1 video, and in the coming days you will be getting economic survey ka different videos. We will take each chapter in one video. Okay, so keep watching. We'll meet you very soon.